Welcome to Going In Blind. I'm your host, Zach Tidwell, and my guest today was not only a member of a messianic cult, but she was married to its leader. And even though she did escape it, her entire family did not. And I don't know that anyone ever escapes a cult unscathed, but this sure seems to have been a pretty high price to pay to have gotten out of it. But today she's helping others escape the same loops and trickery and whatever other labels we want to throw on that kind of manipulation that leads people down that path. And so she is turning it into something positive. She's written a couple books that I'm sure we'll probably get into near the end of the show as well. And other than that, I'm going to let her tell her story. But before I do, I want to get a couple quick announcements out of the way as usual. Just if you want to reach out and book me for speaking gigs or anything like that, or see what I'm up to and join my mailing list to get updates about some big projects that I have going on behind the scenes, you can head over to zachtidwell.com. And if you've been listening to the show for a while and you haven't already, please leave a rating and review wherever you're listening. And if you prefer to watch your podcast, the last handful of episodes now have been on video. So you can head over to YouTube and watch as well. But with all of that out of the way, please welcome Isabella Young. Isabella, thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having me on your show as a guest, Zach. I'm looking forward to getting to know you more, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to speak about what I learned from my experiences and
Yes.
share what I learned.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know. I feel like at least half the guests that I've had on here, the subject matter is probably not easy to talk about, or maybe it is now, but it's been a process to get there. But this is seems especially sinister from what I know, and I feel like the best place to start here is probably how did you end up? What was the path? Can you lead us through the timeline that got you into joining a cult? Whether that was meeting your husband, if that came later, or however all of that happened.
My cult preparation started in childhood. My family was my first cult, although it was not a religious cult at all, but my mother had a narcissistic personality disorder, and she was an alcoholic, and she ran the family like a cult. She triangulated my brothers and I. That basically means that you put yourself in the position of power and then have those who you're exerting power over be fighting and arguing, so there's no unified front to rise up against the one who's exerting power. Mm-hmm. So yeah, she was my first cult leader, and it was not overtly traumatic in that I wasn't like physically abused or sexually abused, but certainly emotionally abused. And parents went through a really toxic divorce, and I kind of got used as an emotional support for my mum, which is totally inappropriate because I was only 12. And anyway, got emerged from my family very wounded, with no self-love and no idea about boundaries, or always looking for love and approval outside of myself rather than feeling that I was worthy and deserving and of love. And then I met a man who completely changed my life, because in addition to being a narcissist and an alcoholic, my mother was a militant atheist. So she hated God. She hated anyone who believed in God or religions, just crutch for humanity. And so I grew up with this feeling of superiority, that because everyone else believed in God, they were weak and lesser human beings, but somehow I knew better. And so that didn't serve me very well. And it was only when I met my man who was my first husband, and he gave me books to read, like Autobiography of a Yogi and Little Prince. And he was a combat veteran. He did 4 tours of Vietnam. He was in the SAS and the Green Berets. And I only found out fairly recently that he was actually the longest serving Australian soldier in the Vietnam War, but he was very humble about his capabilities and capacities. And that he gave me the, like, just the the perception of life, that there's more to this experience than what can be perceived through the five senses. So there's a guiding principle or a overseeing intelligence or whatever you want to call it. I'm call it God because that was a word that was used with a lot of venom when I was growing up, and I've had to do a full circle to come back around to know that I am being guided and protected by an infinite intelligence. So we started our life together, and it was a lot of fun because he'd come out of the army and was now working in using his skills in the outdoor education field. So he would take companies into the wilderness, and they'd do survival activities and team building activities, adventure challenge activities to increase team building within the companies. And I was working in the outdoor field using similar activities, but with young people who had their first psychiatric episode, or they got a mental health diagnosis and they're on meds. So they came on we had a long-term outdoor education program. So we were building up self-esteem and also a whole lot of outdoor adventure skills as well. It was my dream. We were living on a farm. I wanted to be as self-sufficient as possible. So we had an orchard and a vegetable garden, and we were pregnant with our second child. He went off to work. It was the start of a new job. I got a knock on the door about 10 o'clock in the morning from a local cop and a neighbor, and I was told that he passed away. He'd been found dead in his car, and his partner was a paramedic, and he found him, but there was nothing. He was gone. So that in that moment, I just knew that my life was over. My dreams of a family were over. My best friend was gone. My kids weren't going to have a dad. And so that I went on a quest really to find a reason to stay alive, because I really didn't want to, and to find where to live and make a home, because I couldn't stay on the farm. It was chop wood, carry water situation, and I just couldn't do that on my own. So I searched around, traveled around Australia, and I'm originally from Australia, stayed with the friends, and finally found a community outside of Melbourne. They did a lot of different sorts of spiritual courses. They taught body work and did shamanic journeying, and I ended up giving birth to my daughter in the community, and so living nearby there. And then I finally did a course with them called Dying to Live, which was we were in darkness for the course, except when we were in the temple space, and we prepared for our death on the last day, which was really like writing letters of forgiveness and writing a will and a eulogy. So it was a simulation, but that was our intention, to prepare for this death experience. And on that last day, I had a massive out of body experience and received some guidance. And one of the things that I was told was to go and start training with this particular individual. When I got back from the out of body experience, that took a few days. I called up this
couple days to come out of that.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
Yeah. I couldn't really walk. I was I had like full blown squirting orgasms that went for like a day, then come out of that, and then it was just get grounded, getting bodied, and it was massive. But
Were you guys having sex when you had? Okay.
No, it just was just how my body responded to that that amount of light and expansion.
Can we dig into, I guess, what the ritual was like? That I'm just to have like what facilitated, I guess. So you guys are in darkness for how long leading up to all of this? Is it entire
days?
Okay. And is it almost entire sensory deprivation that whole time, where it's, silence as much as possible too, and you're isolated? Or how did all that work?
Well, we were blindfolded. We wore eye masks, and which was meant that you can see down. So when we walked around the area, we were able to look down, but we were basically in our own little black world, except when we came together in that temple space, and that's when we could talk and write and interact uh, and go through these. We did, like, we walked a labyrinth, holding an intention. What do you want to get out of this experience? And for me, I just wanted to get rid of my death wish and, find what my next, what my path was going to be.
Yeah.
And so the process on the Friday morning was lying down in the temple, dark, silent, everyone's in their own space. And then the instructor gave us verbal instructions. And I remember the words Merkaba, which is an energetic vessel that all of us have. It's 2 inverted pyramids. So it's like the Star of David, but in 3 dimensions. And that's a light vessel that we have that enables us to travel out of body and other places and times and dimensions and all that. And then that's the main thing I remember. And then I was flying through galaxies, it seemed like, at light speed for quite a while. And then I met my husband who'd passed away. These are reasons that I know that life continues and that we can communicate with people who have died or people who've crossed over. It's just got a veil between us in physicality and them in non-physicality. So yeah,
And
I met.
was when that, how, I mean, that sounded, in the way that you've told the story, that was relatively shortly after he died, correct? This experience and meeting him again?
It was probably about. It was over a year because I was, my kids was still, it was probably about a year after he died, maybe a year and a half. Yeah, it took me a while to figure stuff out and work out where I was going to live, and then to be able to go on and do the course. Maybe even more than a year.
Did you talk to him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, he talked to me. He told me what to do next.
Were there any substances involved in this Friday morning, this ceremony?
No, it was all through breath work, using the breath to free the mind, to release the. So yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty wild, I know. It's even strange to talk about it because I know a lot of people have a lot of judgments about everything that I've just said. But if it hadn't happened to me, then I'd be skeptical too.
Yeah. Well, and they're not here having this conversation, so they can judge from afar. I mean, that's the way I see it. So, I get, I've done some holotropic breathing. That's really the extent of any like breath work that I've done. That's while I was at rehab trying to get sober from alcohol, and they introduced us to that, and it was I was shocked by how powerful it could be. And it's, I wasn't doing it on any deep level. I was like learning how to do it. And it was just, and some of that's probably me getting older too, and like opening up. And also, I get strong intuitions with people where I'm like, all right, this person feels like they're bullshitting me. And obviously I'm not getting that here. So like, it just, yeah, when you guys, did anyone else have an experience as powerful as yours in that group that morning? Do you know?
They may have. I wasn't really in a place to be able to
Oh, that's fair.
make a comparison. So I was very expanded by my experience. I wasn't really able to even talk that well. It took me a while to be able to speak.
Okay.
But yeah, the breath is one of the most powerful tools we have to be able to change our state. Just from simply, a sigh of relief, that is going to bring a release of tension. And then to be able to increase that, all you need to do is have your exhale longer than your inhale, and that immediately puts us in a more relaxed state. And then there's so many, like you mentioned, that holotropic breath work, and there are so many other forms of breath work that we can use to improve our well-being.
Yeah, even just in controlling, just being intentional about it in moments, when you're in a lot of pain, if you start taking more control over your breathing, that helps kind of ease some of that, or even, as simple as like I cold plunge just about every day, getting in there the whole time. I just focus on my breath, and it does something as simple as that, just kind of roots you differently. And I feel like it's, again, because I'm not doing it on any like deep level, it feels like it just kind of draws your mind inward. And I don't know if that's the mechanism at play on a simple level of just applying it to kind of take control of a situation as opposed to probably what you guys were doing. But it's very interesting to me. I mean, it's something I'd be interested in getting more like involved with at some point, just to try it and see what happens. Because I've heard people talking about experiences like yours, and it's it does. I think to some extent, even, if people are listening and not having the skepticism that you talked about, like there's at least a lot of stuff we have to experience for ourselves to even have any sort of meaningful grasp on. But what was that word or that symbol that you had mentioned? What was it called again?
It's called a Merkaba.
Okay. And it
Merkabah.
okay. Is that act because you mentioned the Star of David? Is that what that symbolizes in the Star of David? Is, do you know?
It could. It just
Oh,
depends on who's using the symbol and in what context. But
okay.
that's what it looks like. And you can envisage that. You can envision it. You can see it around yourself. And they also spin. The top one spins in, you can spin them in different directions for different reasons, but it energizes us and it strengthens our being
Hmm.
to be aware of the Merkaba. And then if you want to go off traveling or no, the thing is that I just wanted to, I'm not interested at all in practicing out of body experiences regularly because I feel that we're here in physicality to be physical and I've got eternity to travel out of body. But for this particular time, it was life changing.
Okay. Yeah. And I don't want to bog you down anymore. Sorry. I'm very curious. But so your late husband told you what to do next. And I think you had mentioned meeting someone else, or
Yeah, there were
is
other
that correct?
beings who I met and I don't know who they were. And I assumed that they were my, I don't know, they could be ancestors, they could have been other crossover loved ones, guardian
Okay.
angels. They were, yeah, they were there too.
And so it took you a couple days to come back down from all that. And then what happened?
Then I followed up with my instructions and called up this individual who I had heard of before. He was at that time presenting himself as a trance channel. So he uh, was, let's just be honest, he was pretending to be lots of different, um, like higher evolved beings, different ascended masters, and uh, but telling people he's actually got those beings are coming through him.
Mhm.
He's a trained actor, so he
Very
was
convincing.
very convincing. And then he announced that he was actually now all of those beings and enlightened, and in fact, the second coming. So he was the one that was come to save humanity. He's the Messiah, he's the Kalki avatar, and he was gathering disciples, as he calls his followers, to help him bring his mission into fruition.
Okay.
So I went over, he invited me over to his ashram in the States, in Southern California, in a house on a cul-de-sac near Ralph's. And there he has his headquarters, and there are other group homes around where disciples live, and
Hmm.
everyone's involved in this ministry. So always have to follow his instructions and spend time serving him and helping in the home and uh, recruiting more people, and as well as, of course, healing our own issues because as he kept reminding us, we're seriously wounded, so we need to do kinesiology and sessions with psychologists and sessions with him, of course. And so we were kept pretty busy, which is one of the ways that people are kept in cults, because then there's no time to think clearly or think independently or whatever. So,
They wear you out.
What's that?
They wear you out.
Oh, yeah, and worse than that, just get ground into the ground, end up being a broken shell of a human being. So
And
I had two children. By that time, they came over to live. We lived as a family. We had sex one time, and I got pregnant. And then gave birth to a daughter. And then he never touched me again in an intimate way for the rest of the 8 years. He always made up excuses. I was too needy, too much like a man. I wasn't deserving. I was disobedient. I was rude. I was disrespectful. And then in the end, he just said being celibate was for my highest and best. So I was in a celibate marriage, and it turned out he wasn't. In fact,
shocker. Yeah.
Yeah, shocker, right? It's straight out of the cult playbook. Straight out, they're all the same. They're all about sex, money, and power. So he was grooming the boys in the cult and convincing the men in the cult that they were gay, or if not, let's explore, your issues, sexual issues. And he was also on Tinder and Grindr and, going to the gym and hookups, just living life as a full-on sex addict.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I was just going to say, a lot of what I share, I only found out later. Like you were saying, how long it takes to talk about these traumas that we go through. It took me 15 years to kind of piece together enough of myself and enough of the story based on what other ex-cult members had told me to then be able to talk about what I understand happened to me and my children. It's been
go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, been a hell of a journey to get to this point to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Even when I saw your message, when we originally connected, I was kind of blown away a little bit. Like, you hear about this stuff in a documentary and kind of manner, right? Where it's someone telling a story of like these horrendous things. It's not typically someone who's actually come out on the other side of it it just is able to talk about it. And
it's just, it's so traumatic because when we have I haven't been through a physical trauma like you have, but the trauma that I went through, it goes so deep because it's a spiritual trauma. So it's, in addition, there was emotional trauma and abuse and all that, but when it's a spiritual trauma, it's like right to the core. So then you don't know, you can't trust yourself. You don't know who to trust. Is God real? That it creates such a just gaping wound.
Yeah. And I want to dig into what you're saying there, and then I want to pause because I got some other questions that came up along the way. So when you're saying spiritual trauma, is that because it shook your foundational beliefs? Is it like what do you mean by spiritual trauma, and what made it a spiritual trauma for you?
My spiritual life has been, first and foremost, since I realized that there is more to life than what can be perceived through the senses. So I really devoted myself to healing and serving the force of love and life that runs through me. And so when I met him, he proclaimed himself as my guru, and I really did want a guru. So it was all, looked all perfect. I also wanted a family, and he was offering to be a father for my children. So it kind of all dovetailed to be a perfect fit.
Yeah.
He's got a narcissistic personality disorder. I've got codependent tendencies. So it was a perfect match, really. But on the spiritual level, with him claiming to be my guru, and he says to me that I know you better than you know yourself. You've journeyed thousands, tens of thousands of lifetimes to get to this point, and here we are. We can fulfill your heart's desires, which was just to really like make the world a better place, and whatever that meant. Plant flowers on the sidewalk, I don't know, write a book, whatever it is, whatever I'm guided to do. So he's basically inserted himself between me and my higher self. And when I would tell him that I didn't feel that was a good thing, or we should do this or whatever, he would just completely override that and say he knew best. In every situation, he was always the one who was right, regardless of uh, anything that I said or did. And so that undermined my trust in myself and completely disconnected me from my intuition and my higher self. So that's what happened and that's the spiritual abuse that I experienced.
And when you say your higher self, what do you mean? Are you talking about, I guess, yeah, instead of me leading that question, I'll say, what do you mean by that when you say that?
From my understanding, this me in this body is not all of who I am. There is another infinitely bigger, wiser part of me that like guards, and directs me with this little human mind in this body. There's another, I can feel that there's another force, another benevolence, and intelligence that's runs through me and is running through my life. So that's what I call my higher self. Some people call that, they could call it a guardian angel, or once again, God, or some people might call that, they're related to more of a, like I said, an angelic presence.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's how I understand myself in this body through this life, that I am on a spiritual path to heal and evolve and expand my soul essence. That's the best way I can put it. I know it's very esoteric and it's to be called New Age gobbledygook, and maybe that, that's what it is.
It's very woo woo, but I wanted to talk to you about it. Not so like, I'm asking you, I'm curious, right? Like that's so I'm not setting something up here. It's just I'm genuinely asking you. So it's and then I want to come back to these other questions that came up along the way, but why, because you mentioned some people do believe it, maybe it's God, maybe it's an angel, maybe it's an ancestor looking over, maybe it's grandma who died is watching over you. Why do you feel that it's you?
Because the information that comes through me or to me is, well, it sounds like me. So some people call it intuition. So and that means different things for different people. Like you were saying, you have intuition about people. Like how does that function for you? Probably completely different from me. I have gut feelings. I hear voices. In some, it's just a little whisper, a prompt, like especially when I was writing the book, it was go read this book or watch this video. I get directions. It's like you come to an intersection and you just get that gut feeling. Do I go left or right? And you feel what it is, and then you follow that. And so for me, that's my higher self, a voice of my intuition. Comes in dreams, comes in signs and synchronicities. And I've learned to trust that. I had to relearn to trust that and strengthen that by following the impulses, the guidance, the directions, following that, and that builds the strength of it and the trust in that, my connection to the guidance, the higher guidance that's coming through.
Yeah, and that sounds similar to how I would, I guess what I would call my intuition is the gut feelings and the I don't know, when I see synchronicities and things, like I've been noticing a lot lately, and now I feel like it's because I've been noticing them that I'm like, okay, this is just now I'm honed in on these things that I'm noticing them. But yeah, I guess it's I feel like and I don't hear voices or like get a guiding go check X thing out. I feel like there's a different intensity to what you're speaking to, but I think at the root, it almost sounds like, for whatever reasons, it's different value assigned to it, or, and obviously I, at least in me hearing, that's in like, I trying to liken my own, since we were talking about my own discussion of intuition, I feel like that's maybe where things separate. But so that we can continue down this storyline, I want to step back because and I think you've touched on it, and maybe you haven't said the specific language, so I wanted to ask about it. I mean, I guess first, was your father present in your life at all as a kid? Because you mentioned your mom. He was. Okay.
He was present, uh, but after my parents divorced, my mother alienated me from him. That was like her first main act of evil was,
Yeah.
she told me everything about that he was a bad person. He didn't want to support his kids anymore. He went off with another woman. He wanted a different family. He didn't want us. So she convinced me that I shouldn't have any contact with him anymore. And
It
that
was
went
still
on
nice
for,
and yeah.
yeah. And he was he would, in a way, he was a good man, but he was probably uh a little bit weak. He didn't really, she was a force to be reckoned with, so he probably didn't stand a chance, but uh he did go off with he did start another family, and the kids were calling him dad, and that was extremely painful.
Okay.
But uh once I matured and healed my wounds, then we were able to reconcile, and we had a good relationship up until he passed, which was last year. He had a fabulous life and a good death. So yeah, he was first there when I needed help. He was first to show up when my husband was dead, and he actually came with me to the mortuary and held my hand while I went in and dressed his body and helped me with that. He was, when I needed him, he was there for me.
Okay. And I was asking because I'm curious. I mean, it's we hear about this a lot again in these more documentative kind of explanations of cult or tellings of cult stories. Usually, after there's been a downfall of the cult or something crazy has happened. But like people are often very vulnerable, have not had good childhoods, have not had, how like you have experienced a major loss going into something like that. It sounds like I mean, you were searching for yourself, and at least, and stop me if I'm wrong on that, but like that's having how I've interpreted kind of what you were saying. And so it seems definitely vulnerable going into getting introduced to this cult. And I'm kind of curious with that. Was that pretty in your peers, like the other people who have found themselves living in this cul-de-sac, this holy cul-de-sac or whatever? Like, what was that pretty much the through line with everyone? Because everyone was vulnerable and then happened upon this supposedly higher being who's gonna guide you through whatever this is and onto the next level of life.
Everyone has that story, a story like that. In fact, I wrote a cult classic because I collected the stories of everyone in the cult. Instructions were to write a story of what your life was like before you met Guruji, and then and when you and then what happened when you met him, how he transformed your life, and how fabulous it is now. So I collected
Wow.
about 70 stories actually, and put them into a book called The Heart Always Knows. Never buy that book. Don't ever read it. Certainly don't buy it from the cult. But yeah, in every one of those stories, people had some kind of wound that led them into the cult situation.
So you compiled that while you were in the cult?
Yeah.
Whoa.
I did. And it was interesting because I had to write my own story. But as the time went on, I became less and less enthusiastic about the situation I was in. I became really critical. And I was able to start to see some of the toxicity. I remember at the end of the book, he made me change my story because I started to write some of this down. He made me change the ending of my own story that was in the book to be something more positive. When
No
actually,
way.
because
Could you see like stuff like that when he sees that slipping? Would that shake him? Like, could you identify that at all, or was it just it's all part of the plan on his end?
outwardly nothing really seemed to shake him,
Mm.
because these are the psychopaths. They really are. They've also got dark energy. They got demons around them, and he feels invincible. I still wonder, like, people ask though, but does he? What's happening in the early morning hours after he's had his orgies? Is he lying there thinking, oh well, perhaps I should get on with this saving humanity, or is he realizing that he's has to get up every day and put on a show, put on an act?
I bet
I
he
don't
does
know.
that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he knows.
I feel like all that is insecurity, right? Like it is instead of doing something meaningful with his life, he's chosen to manipulate people. Some of that's weak character, some of that's looking probably for a shortcut, but a lot of that is all built. I mean, he's building up his ego on top of that, and that's I think that's what the outside of it sound. I mean, you mentioned he was grooming kids, so obviously there's pedophilia there, but like if that stuff was removed and he's just manipulating adults who unfortunately are consenting and have just made some bad decisions, who have ended up there because they were looking for something, like all of that stuff seems, I mean, it's a power thing, which I would feel like is a lot of that has to, like a core building block of that to me just seems like it is trying to make up for a monumental sense of insecurity.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I've studied narcissism, narcissistic personality disorder, since I learned about it. Because if this guy doesn't have a narcissistic personality disorder, no one does. Like, if you're claiming that you're the second coming, you should be at the top of the list of that.
Yeah.
But it was all well and good for me to point the finger and say, hey, he's got a narcissistic personality disorder. But what does that mean about me? Why did I get involved with him? Why did I stay? And so I learned there's a guy, Dr. Sam Vaknin. He talks about narcissistic personality disorder and codependency, which is the tendencies that I have, both self-love deficit disorders. They just present differently. So the narcissist is getting their needs met by creating a false persona that can then get people to give them money, have sex with them,
Mm.
do their bidding, whatever it is, clean their house, who knows. The root is lack of self-love. Both those conditions are self-love deficit disorders. And the difference is that, so I'm looking for love outside myself too. I'm people pleasing and don't want to get in trouble being the good girl and all that, some of the time. And then so then he's over here. He has a bottomless pit of self-hatred. It's that's the thing with narcissistic personality disorder. It's a abyss, an unfillable abyss. And in that is also the no ability to self-reflect, no ability to take responsibility, no accountability, always the victim, always projecting themselves onto other people, their motivations. They're cheating and lying and stealing. They always blame other people for that. And in my case, with codependent tendencies, I have that ability. I can self-reflect. I go, oh my God, I was batshit crazy. Like, I really lost my mind then. I was really mentally ill and I was unreachable. Even if people who told me I was in a cult, I'm pretty sure I would have ignored them and laughed at them and denied it or whatever. So that's what I've come to understand. And the thing about narcissism, it's rising. It's so common now. It used to be not really spoken about at all, but now people throw that word out at anyone who doesn't agree with them or whatever. But it really is a condition that's comes out of not having needs met as a child. So obviously not being loved unconditionally. And then so that's a way to a way to get love. And then now with social media, and that just feeds that the narcissistic tendencies.
Yeah. And it is hard. I've noticed that it gets thrown around. I mean, it's like a buzzword to like throw at people, like a label that people assign to people. And where it is narciss, it might be narcissistic in the sense of what we think of the being self-centered and being the center of the universe kind of thing, but it's not representative of what like that actual condition is. But it's interesting. And before I forget, what was that doctor's name? Dr. Sam what?
Back Nim. Vaknim.
Okay. I'm
Primary.
gonna look him
Yeah.
up. But so, it's interesting as you can probably, or I guess as you probably would have guessed, like, or assumed after shooting yourself in the face, you do a lot of therapy. I still do therapy once a week today, just to, got a lot of stuff going on, and it's good maintenance stuff, I think. And it's, a lot of it was learning skills, but, we've talked about having worked with the same therapist for so long, we've had some like tangent conversations that come up or things that I'll ask about. And it's interesting. I didn't realize this. So, because you had mentioned with him being a narcissist that it is, there's no ability to reflect. There is no self-reflection. There's no ability to hold yourself accountable. And it's interesting. I've talked to my psychologist about this, and I don't even remember how, but that condition, it's a uphill battle, but it is treatable. So that unwilling or the inability is not an inability; it is an unwillingness, or at least maybe it's an inability until they've been shown how. But like it can be fixed. It's interesting because I think it ties back into like what you said. It's the no self love. It's the insecurity, whatever. Very very similar things there. But for you, in the middle of all that, I mean, you already touched on it. Like it sounds like you were becoming disenchanted. Were you aware of the grooming that was going on towards children? What was that started to kind of shake your foundation and your belief in him?
The hypocrisy that would happen on a daily basis. He would
Okay.
uh, he'd tell people how they should behave or act, and then he wouldn't be following his own advice. He was presenting himself as the embodiment of divine love, and he's this nasty little mean person, selfish, self-centered. Everything's all about him, wasn't really taking into account what other people thought, said, or wanted. So it was him, just the way he acted on an everyday basis. He handed out punishments for everything from your tone of voice, if you cooked something you didn't like, or you bought an apple that was bruised, and whatever it was, there were always consequences for not falling into line with his desires and wishes. And the punishments included, his favorite one was handing out uh, lines of affirmation, writing lines of affirmation, like I am obedient to my guru. That was, my son had to write that like 100 times a day for 99 days. Mine was, I am the wife of Christ. I had to do that 33 times a day for 99 days or some shit, till I refused to do that. So his lines of affirmation had some people writing for hours and hours and hours, pages and pages. And then if they complained or there were tear stains on it or whatever, you'd have to do it again. And
What the fuck?
right, yeah,
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Or if he didn't, if another one of his was sending people out to pick up dog shit or pick up trash, or if you there was arguments in relationships and someone would be sent to sleep in the car or to sleep in the garage on the floor with no mattress, so punishments like that, people ostracized, people who, like, if I remember one time one of the cult members cooked food, but like left it in the fridge and didn't notice, and it went bad, and he made her eat it. Just, my son was made to eat out of a dog bowl because of some disrespect that he gave. So and then everyone's walking on eggshells. That expression. Not want to upset Guruji, because then you're going to get punishments and consequences or extra assignments. The other one would he make people transcribe his teachings because every word is a jewel of infinite wisdom.
Yeah.
So people would be. There was no time really. You'd either be doing tasks that were cleaning, cooking, uh, emailing or whatever, and then there'd be the transcribing which of his talks and discourses that took up people's time. So always some kind of punishments that were. So that was really upsetting because especially he was really particularly hard on the children, especially my children, and that was to get at me. And so that I can remember the day that I said to this other, because we had partners, so we could like bitch and complain and vent. And I remember saying only a couple of years into, I said, I don't even like him. I don't love him and I don't like him. And then it was trapped because I had a child with him and I'd been through my own horrendous family divorce. So I didn't want to put my own kids through that. And I also believed on some level that I was responsible for this, which I was, but on a higher level.
Not in the way he was saying.
Not the way he was saying. Like I was wounded. I did have issues and that needed to be dealt with. And he would say, well, you can either do it here or elsewhere. And I thought, well, I might as well just figure it out now, work it through it now, rather than take these issues with me as I went. So he sort of trapped me on a physically, but also spiritually.
Yeah.
And that's really what kept me there when I really should have left long before I did.
I got two questions. One, were those this punishment, these kind of just ridiculous, almost like flippantly, like, yeah, fine, go pick up dog shit kind of punishments, like, were those present when you first joined? And then two, the hypocrisy, was that something that you were the only one that had a view of because you were married to him, or were other people seeing that?
Oh, other people saw that.
Okay.
And the punishments, I can't remember when that all started, pretty early on. It was probably going before I got there, and then it took me a while to sort of settle in and see what was going on. But other people saw that. But it was always, the thing was that he was always the guru. So, and he would say everything I do, from blinking my freaking eye to, saying whatever it is or going off to the gym for hours, is always for everyone's highest and best. So that's how he would get away with being the trash, evil piece of human that he is. And people would bitch about him, complain, say what he did, but then the answer was always, well, he's serving everyone. So I know sounds. Sorry, you go.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you're going to say what's his name?
Yeah, what's his real name?
His birth name is Louis Bonanno, and he changed that after a visitation from Yogananda to Louis, Louix, Dor, middle name, Dor, and then last name Dompriey, Dempriey. And he's still got his cult running in the same house in Laguna Hills in California. I don't think that he has as many cult members as he did. He has a cult home in Melbourne, and we just actually reported him to a parliamentary inquiry into cults and high control groups. So he did at one point have cult homes in New Zealand and South Africa even, but I don't know now. I really haven't kept track of him like that. I just don't want to engage with him.
Yeah.
So
what is it called?
It's called the Louis Dompriey Foundation, and he presents himself as an educational organization, but he's got a 501c3. So he's not paying taxes. He lives off tithing. I'm using air quotes now, but he's basically stealing money. He's stealing money from people because he requires this tithing, which is 10% of your income, your gross income, or 10% of any gifts you get, any inheritances you get, any house sales, car sales, whatever, you give to him because he sources you, so you should source him. So that's how he is building his little empire over there.
It's so crazy. So I was stationed on Camp Pendleton in Southern California, and
Oh, right.
there was a huge church in it was like I think it was the Mariner Church in Laguna Hills supported like our battalion specifically. They would put on, barbecues for those of us who lived in the barracks and like stuff like that. And it's just, I mean, I was right there. Well, I mean, I was there from I deployed twice, but while I wasn't deployed, I was there from 2014 to 2018. So like all of this was going on right there. And you
Yeah, there's been some whack jobs there in Southern California. That whole Hale-Bopp comet people. Remember that guy told people that the Hale-Bopp comet was going to come and take all his disciples into the next life, and they'll put their Nike shoes on and Jim dazed it,
yeah, yeah. It's why it seems in it maybe it's an oversimplification, but it always seems like it is very vulnerable people who feel, are grabbed in by some shithead who's just, I mean, that seems to always, that it, like, I mean, you said it's always the same playbook with them, it seems. And it's monetarily, in terms of, because you've touched on, I mean, you said other people were seeing this hypocrisy, and was that 10% tithe, again, tithe, was that the only financial hold that he had on people? Like, I'm trying to understand how the hell like people are seeing that and still staying with all the, I mean, as other people are starting to see all the bullshit.
People stay because of their emotional wounds. People don't just choose to get into a cult for fun. It usually starts out as being a group that's going to give you community or a purpose and friends.
Mhm.
So people stay because they still have that wound and are hoping. Well, it works through the love bombing, hate bombing dynamic. So you start off being told, well, I was told you're the most beautiful woman in the world, I've been waiting lifetimes for you, and then I'm the Antichrist. And
Mm.
and when we're in those trauma bonding situations, we're always hoping that we're going to be able to do something, say something, or to get back into that love bombing stage. But it never happens. It never
Interesting.
happens.
Hungry.
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. But that's all. It's just an artificial situation. The entire experience was all uh, like what's the word, cultivated to keep us ignorant of what was really going on, and just focused on serving the guru and healing our wounds, not realizing that we're being brainwashed, mind controlled, stolen from, and used as free slave labor. Because that's another thing people come to. So people would come from Australia to serve, and I'm using air quotes again, because they're basically coming to be free slaves, and they live in a home close by, and they come to clean and cook and garden and whatever else do the laundry, whatever else he needs done.
After having worked a full day at whatever job pays their tithing kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm.
And then have to, yeah, exactly.
And
And he's had some people who've been with him now for nearly 20 years, and they are and he has a small inner circle who know what he gets up to, know that he's a pedophile, know that he's a rapist, know that he's a liar and a con man. But what he's told them is they're the most evolved people on the planet, so they can reconcile the differences between who he says he is and who he actually is. Like, that's just the highest level of mind free, just appealing to these people's ego, so they think, oh yeah, I'm so evolved and we'll continue to support this um demon in disguise, basically.
one,
It's
go ahead.
no, you go.
He's probably bringing some of that stuff. They're probably, I find it hard to believe that they know about that stuff and they're not also being pulled into it. They're like, yeah,
No, they are being
there's,
pulled through. You're right.
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
exactly. That's how we found out about the pedophilia, because the piece of evil that runs the cult in Melbourne adopted her two nephews who came from a very just horrific situation with their parents. So she adopted them, and they those boys were groomed from 7 to, they were told they were gay. If they only just accept that, all their problems will go away, and just go and the aunt sent them to his bedroom when he'd come to visit Australia, and they were told that they were blessed because he was giving them attention, and all so much mindfuckery went on with those boys. And then when they grew up, they were this is how I found out about the grooming and what really happened to my son, because they said he's been sexually abusing them. And then they spoke out about it. They came forward, and one of those had his spoke about it on YouTube, and he was made to take the video down, or he'd be cut off. And just that was so much pressure put on them, to the boys, to not speak up. Well, they're men now, and it's caused, they basically have been struggling ever since.
And that's how you found out your son was being groomed, was from them coming out about it.
Yeah. That's how I know why my son was murdered, and that his death was framed as a suicide, but it really was allegedly, I'm supposed to say, a murder to silence him about he was being groomed, and that he was also going to expose really what this guy was like. So he was silenced.
What? Okay. So what set the stage for all that? Why? I mean, what timeline? Why? Like,
So that was 7 years into the cult,
okay.
and just living hell. Fights, arguments, just toxic environment at home. But the kids still had their lives outside the home. They had friends. They did activities, sports, dance, taekwondo, and whatever. So going to school, yeah, okay. They went to the local high school, and so on the outside that they were still having a normal life, but not at home, not at all. And then one day my son came home from school and he was upset. He didn't want to talk about it, so I suggested he go to bed and talk about it in the morning. And in the morning he was gone, which was not like him. We called around all his friends and no one had seen him. And the next day the cult leader sent his assistant to look for him behind the house, and he was found with a neck wound and a kitchen knife, and that was blamed on me. Apparently the story went that he found out he was gay. Here we go with the whole gay thing again. Found out he was gay, and that was not acceptable to him, and he knew it wouldn't be acceptable to me, which is just like heinous lies, just pure evil. So he took his life, and none of his friends believed at the time that that's what had happened. But I completely lost my mind then. Again, I thought I'd done my time with death when my husband died, but yeah. This was I couldn't really even function. I spent like 6 months in bed just going breath to breath. I would have taken myself out then, but I had 2 children again, so I didn't want to put them through that. Yeah. So it took a long time for me to be able to function again, and it was another about 7 months after I knew I needed help. I really did. I was in a bad place, so I went to see this guy who'd been the cult therapist, who I never went to see because I was disobedient. I just didn't want to go. But after my son's murder, I went to see him. I walk in the door. He wasn't the cult therapist anymore. He'd had his own epiphany and realized that he was dealing with a particular evil person. So I walked in the door and he said, "I knew you'd come and see me one day. You know you're in a cult, don't you?" And I said, "No, I don't know I'm in a cult. I thought I was in an ashram with my guru." So he said, "Go home and Google cult characteristics." And that's when I went through the checklist. The charismatic leader who's the arbitrator of truth, who controls everyone's time, what they eat, what they wear, who they're in a relationship with, what they spend their money on. Then there's the gaslighting, which he is a master at, and I came to understand. So gaslighting is a term that's now common again, like it's in the vernacular, common vernacular, like narcissism. But it came from a play in the 1930s where the husband was trying to make his wife go crazy by adjusting the gas lights. But before electricity, you could make the light really bright or dim it. And he would do that. And then she would say, oh, did you notice that? And he would say no. And, just really mess with her head like that. So that happened in the cult where I was told I said things or we did things or all that. And then he would just switch it around. So I didn't really trust myself anymore. And there's the love bombing, the hate bombing, the psyops, the stealing money, the tithing. And once I went through that checklist, I realized, oh shit, I'm in a cult and I have to get out.
Mhm.
And that took a few months as well, because he wouldn't just let me leave. He wasn't going to let me go because I had our daughter, and I'm not supposed to legally go within 2 hours from the home. I didn't really want to be in the States anymore. So I think he eventually let me leave. And because he knew he was going to have another death on his hands, and he didn't need that attention. So
That it was either let you go or kill you kind of thing.
no, let me go or I'll kill myself.
Oh, okay.
And he just didn't need that. He didn't need that attention. And so it took a long time for me to figure out what happened. I didn't know I was a beard, apparently. I didn't even know that term.
What is it called?
It's called I was a beard, BEARD. So that's apparently someone who can present a false. I was supposed to be the wife. Well, he was the family man, right? So we're supposed to be living as this family unit.
Yeah.
I'm there to make him look good.
Yeah.
Make him look like he is a decent human being.
And legitimize him. Yeah.
Legitimize him, yeah. So it took a while to figure out what my role was. And then this is funny. So before I married him, he'd written a book, and in it he talks about being gay. Oh my God, he's the only one with issues about being gay, clearly. And he was living with a husband and all that. So I asked him when we got married, so what's this, about your gay life? And he said, I've healed all my issues. So that now he's living as a straight man with a wife and family and all that. And then after I left, he's the second coming out again, because now he's come out again as in living as a promiscuous gay man.
And
Right,
he's
he's not
open
the
about
second.
it again.
Oh yeah, now he's super flamboyant.
The second coming out. I love that.
Right. I know, isn't that funny? He's the second coming out again.
Well, that would explain the lack of intimacy, which I guess, I mean, you already said he was out just kind of banging everybody and convincing all the dudes they were gay, but
it turned out that's a good thing. Like if we had been like sexually active, I would have been exposing myself to all sorts of stuff, because he's clearly out there taking a lot of risks that I didn't really need introduced to me or my body. So it's interesting how things that seemed the worst at the time can end up being a blessing in disguise.
it's just, I mean,
It's excruciating. It's our form of sexual abuse. It isn't talked about. It was absolutely excruciating.
Oh, I never would have thought of it that way. I mean, yeah, you're withholding it from someone. I mean, in his case, it seems like another power play in his case. Yeah.
Yeah. Narcissists love to make and then watch people suffer. That's their thing. They love watching people suffer as a result of what they've done or said or whatever. So he got a lot of enjoyment out of me, because I've suffered a lot. I've suffered a lot until probably about 10 years after I left, when I figured out why I got into the cult and what had happened, and the fact that I didn't love myself. I had to work and still work on self-love, self-respect, self-worth. And once I'd established that, and I only knew that because I ended up in a relationship with someone who wasn't a narcissist, but he wasn't my last narcissist. The pattern still repeated itself because I hadn't healed the issue. I hadn't learned to love myself. I hadn't established self-love. So the pattern went on until I finally said, that's it. no more relationships until I'm able to love myself. And that ended up being protection from narcissistic abuse.
Hmm. Do you- I'm curious, just speaking to the pattern, and I'm not trying to speak ill of your late husband, but a man like that who's very capable warrior. I mean, is special forces guy. I mean, in Vietnam, and you said, I mean, I think you said he was like the longest running operator in the Australian military or something, right? Like it was, sometimes people that are very capable like that can have big ego. Was he along that same, did he fit that pattern too, or no?
No,
Okay.
he was extremely humble, given how capable he was, how wise he was, how experienced he was, and to me, I'm gonna cry. He was a gift, because if I hadn't had that relationship, if I hadn't met him, I wouldn't really know how it could be between people, how you could actually have this relationship that deepened in love,
Yeah.
and to be with someone who cared about what I wanted, and he helped me manifest my dreams. So if I hadn't had that, I had that 7 years with him, I wouldn't have really known how just beautiful and fulfilling and just like magical it can be with another human being.
Yeah. Is it hard? Because you had two kids with him, right?
Yeah.
Is it, I mean, do you, would imagine there's some resemblance there, like looking at your child. Is that hard?
Well, okay, well, just it, what's happened as a result of all this is that I don't have a relationship with either of my two children now, so I don't really look at them. I don't get reminded by them. And I just think it's so sad. That's both by their choice. And I think it's really sad because they're missing out on getting to know who he was, and me too. They're really missing out on that. But that's been another just tragic outcome of my experiences, that uh that I'm estranged from my children now. And that's a lot to do with my mother, because she was wanting them not to have a relationship with me.
After
Uh,
all that?
After all that, yeah, she really turned on me. She, like I said, poisoned my children against me, and like wrote me out of the will, kicked me out of the family and all that. So I was kind of on my own when I got out of the cult. And then also the cult leader spent his time poisoning my children against me. And it, just like my mother did with my brothers and I, he did the same thing with all my three children. He triangulated them. So for instance, when my daughter was born, she was announced as the embodiment of Lord Ganesha. So Lord Ganesha is one of the Hindu pantheon, the elephant-headed god, who's
Mhm.
the remover of obstacles. And that she was a divine being. So that immediately meant that the other two children, along with everyone else, are supposed to like worship her and
Mhm.
pray to her and all that sort of stuff. So that caused the uh, a rift within my children. And then he would tell them, this is another evil thing that he did. He would tell them all the time that I loved or liked or preferred one of them over the other, which is so damaging as children. Like even when
Yeah.
parents talk about, even they joke about their favorite child, I always thought that was just really bad parenting. And for me, I honestly never felt any difference in the love that I felt for my children. It was just full on, for each of them. So he spent a lot of his time telling them I'm a crazy bitch and I should be in a psych ward and all this sort of stuff. So they grew up with a lot of disrespect for me. They looked down on me and thought I was a bit of a joke, crazy whack job or whatever. So it didn't. I thought that the power of my love would help my children, survive this, um, the experiences that we all went through. Like we could stay intact as a unit. Like that would be an unbreakable bond between my mother and children. I felt that power of my love was strong enough, but it just wasn't. It just isn't.
Do you think
Yeah.
some of that is, I mean, I would imagine because they're adults now, right?
Hmm.
Did they, I'm guessing, having been raised and manipulated as just like you were through that, but that they're probably like, hey, you played a role in me getting in being subjected to that. Is that where some of that stems from?
Yeah.
Okay.
They blame me for everything. This son for their brother's murder, and I can understand why they would make the choices they've made. What I'd really hope is that they do their own inner work and realize that we're all acting out of uh, wounds and traumas until we heal them, and then then we're in a better place to just to be a better person, I suppose. And I hope that they would be that at least to have that quality of being able to be understanding and forgiving. I hope that um, that's only going to come if they decide to do their own healing work.
Yeah.
I'm not holding my breath, but if they weren't going to be kind and loving and respectful, and I'd rather that they just enjoy their lives without me. I think that's best for everyone.
I feel like you've been I feel like you've been objective in what you've shared here. So I would imagine they have that trait too, right? And it's, maybe they will. I guess I mean, there's nothing saying whether they will or not, but
Right. There's nothing.
but they have, like self-awareness is a trait that I think some of that is practice, but some of that, like, I think you learn and you inherit from people, but I don't know. It's tough. With with your son and all of the pedophilia that was going on as well. So the murder and the pedophilia, like what were you ever able to get an investigation started, or what happened with all that?
Well, the cult leader had my son cremated within a couple of days of his murder. So there was no uh, body to like exhume and test or whatever. But this is by the time I'm realizing that it wasn't a suicide, and need to investigate what really did go on. It was like too late. The cops never interviewed the last person to see my son. They never interviewed the last person to see the cult leader, who now comes out and says, "Oh, he left at like 2 o'clock and had all afternoon out of the house." So while it seems from my mind there was definitely means, motive, and opportunity, that there wasn't the police work done to collect that information. They were just told, like, the cult leader is the spin doctor, right? So he's telling the story, setting the scene, getting the witnesses to repeat his stories. Even me, I don't even know how I could speak words, but he set the whole scene up, and that just meant the cops just wrote, suicide, and that's it. And then when I did want to investigate years later, it was just too late. There wasn't any way to get the evidence or the statements to pursue a legal outcome. But he has to live with that. He has to live with he knows his life is, he's, I feel like he's always on the run from truth, from himself. There's been another couple of suspicious deaths in the cult. Last year, one of the long-term disciples took her life because she found out what he was really like. And she had a son in the cult. And then, then was another cult member too. So he's, in terms of wanting to exact revenge or punishment, his own self is doing that. He lives in hell every day. He's got to get up and start lying again, scamming, procuring sex, and that's just a tragic way to live.
Yeah, and I mean, you hope that one day that hits him, if it's not something that he realizes every morning before he goes and tries to escape that feeling of whatever the truth feels like when that settles into his bones. But it's I honestly I don't even know where to go now at this point. Like it's I mean what
I'm not,
go ahead.
I'm not pursuing justice in that respect. I am taking on the role of being a whistleblower about him, his cults in general, and uh, yeah, that's my focus now. And it's not like I want to definitely see the end of his cult, but it also, there's been a lot of exposure of cults and cult leaders lately. It's becoming like almost a tsunami of religious leaders that are being exposed as uh, frauds and pedophiles and whatever. And it all starts with one person. So we'll just see how it goes. There's a couple of us who've been talking about him, but this is the thing about this cult is there's a lot of ex-cult members, and not many people want to speak up about what happened to them. They've been so traumatized, like they've been mind raped, and for the men they were raped, and there's so much shame around that. So there's not really a group of us at the moment who are speaking up about him, and that's usually what happens because you get someone tells a story, and then a victim will come forward and say what happened, and then that may get the attention of police, or in this case, it was a parliamentary inquiry, and then maybe they'll be exposed, or I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go.
It's hard because and I had thought about it before you mentioned the men having been taken advantage of by another man too. Like that seems like as a man, I can try and put myself in those shoes where like because I had thought as you were already talking about people not coming forward, the embarrassment has to be rough. I mean, it's just
Shame.
in general, yeah. And it's just I mean, you fucked up, right? Like because it's a tough day regardless of what your circumstances were going into that. Like it's one of those things even, I think that was, I don't feel like I struggled with it after I shot myself, but I think it was a part of like something that lit a fire in me was like, I'm the only one responsible for me ending up blind and deaf in one ear and all this other stuff. Whereas like it was that propelled me forward as opposed to being something that really was rough for me. I guess it was very tough for me early on when I couldn't do anything for myself and when I was having to relearn how to walk and all that stuff, that was my fault. But like with the cult, if it's, you just lost 20 years of your life, you said some of those people have been with him for 20 years. And that whole time you've been facilitating him raping men and boys. Like that's a heavy thing to then
It
face.
is.
Yeah.
But like you say, that's the key, is to take full responsibility for all that unfolds. I may have been one of his victims, but I'm not a victim. Because I understand it that because I do trust my intuition and guidance that this is my chosen path, that I like wanted, chosen, created for my growth, my healing, and my soul evolution. So the moment I choose to be a victim, then I'm disempowering myself, and that that's not helpful for healing. I think we need to take responsibility for what happens, what
Yeah.
unfolds.
I think that's kind of like a tumor that, or becomes a tumor in some people's lives when you can't accept, like, yeah, I fucked up. And you have to realize, like, sorry, but you have agency in this life. Like, it is, everything comes down to choices, right? Even whatever your circumstances were, you had some choices and whatever got you there. Yeah, you may not have had as good of options as other people have had for choices to make, but it's, it's hard. But I've been really, I don't know what we've been talking for an hour and some change probably at this point, but it's that has stuck out to me. Like you've been very just matter of fact with it, and it's kind of refreshing. I never know how these conversations are going to go, and I've had several that I've recorded and then gotten rid of because they turn out to be shit conversations. People aren't willing to just be to be honest about stuff and be genuine and have an open discussion on these things. And it just so that's it's it feels to me having talked to you like that is apparent that you're coming from a genuine place. And so I
Oh,
thank you for that. But I just
thank you.
yeah. So today and we can move into some of the other stuff you're doing, but with these, you and it sounds like maybe a couple other people that are coming forward from the cult. Like, are there any organizations you guys are working with, or how is, and I'm asking this from the sense of maybe, if another member or former member of the cult hears this, but also just in general, if people are, maybe there's other people from other cults that are like, how do these movements start? How have you started? Like, you got the parliamentary inquiry going. Like, how did all that
Oh,
come about? How you
I didn't get it going. No, I couldn't even believe it was happening. It was in Victoria where the cult is. And I think from a YouTube video, I followed it, and the people whose channel it was were participating in this inquiry. And then I got so I put in a submission, and when I got the submission back, because they'd accepted it, but they were going to publish it with all the names redacted. And I just wrote to them. I said, what's the point of redacting the names of the cult leaders? If that my whole point was to warn people, expose people to this name so they can avoid him. So anyway, we'll see what happens with that. But there are like there's the Rick Ross Institute. There are quite a number of organizations that actually collect the names of cults and cult leaders and then provide information about what to do if you have a friend or a relative who's in a cult. I think he used to be to the what was it called, like when they would bust people out of cults. I don't think they do that anymore. There's too much legal stuff around that. But there's heaps of websites and people online who've got channels about how to support people to get them out of cults. Just from my own experience, I had no one tell me, except for that psychologist told me I was in a cult. We used to joke about it in the cult because there are heaps of people out there. Well, we were the cult that wasn't a cult, because there are lots of people claiming to be the Messiah, right? It's pretty common, like, I'm Jesus and come follow me. That's not an uncommon cult thing. Exactly.
Wow.
But we're the real one.
No way.
Yeah, we were the real deal. And then I've heard people say you shouldn't tell people that they're in a cult because it'll just drive them further in and end your relationship, so then you've got no contact at all. But if I hadn't been told I was in a cult, I don't know when I would have woken up to that fact. So I reckon that if someone who you know is in a cult, then you could present them with information about the cult. You could present them with testimony from ex-cult members. You could present them with that list of cult characteristics. Well, in my case, they could have presented me with, like, families got enough wherewithal to get a PI to follow this guy, get photos of him hooking up, and get a forensic accountant to show me that he's been taking money from our account and putting it in his own account. So I feel like if you're going to make that information known to people about the being in a cult, provide evidence if you can, so it's backed up. It's not just you
Yeah.
not just you saying that. So that would be my advice if you did know someone in a cult, to back up your claims with evidence.
Yeah. And at that point, if they don't take it, obviously you can keep trying, but then you've at least done your due diligence. And it's like, okay, I'll be here when you decide to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the point. Just be there for them when they get out, because it's so challenging to leave the cult world, because you get cursed out by the cult. Literally, you're told that if you leave, your life is going to be full of tragedy. He told me that my other two children would end up like my son. He's told people that their child's going to end up as a prostitute. You're going to get cancer. Your family's going to get cancer and die and suffer. You're told all of that. Everyone's told that, all ex-cult members, as they're leaving. They're cursed, literally, by that. And it's so there's that to get through. And then there's that lack of self-trust and that self-loathing and the guilt. Oh, yeah. Things that I'm still working with. And so it's good to have support once you get out, just to be not judged and like held really gently and reassured that, that you've done the right thing and
But
you can.
God.
There you go.
Well, no, you were saying, and it's been, and you can what?
Oh, just to say about how for people to offer that safe space for someone who's out of a cult situation. And it's something that we didn't talk about, which is really important to establish, that cults aren't just religious organizations or church groups. Like I said, families can operate as cults. My family did, and that had nothing to do with religion at all, just the dynamics. Because what's a cult? A cult's you're in a relationship. It could be with one person or a group of people where you're not free to make your own choices, where you're being told what to do, and where you're punished if you don't follow the rules of the cult. So cults can be sports teams or political parties or
Definitely
marketing
political
groups.
parties. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They can function as cults. And then what I saw when I got out of the cult and I understood the tactics that were used to keep me in a cult, keep me ignorant, keep me disempowered and following orders, I could see how those dynamics play out on a global scale. How, as a species, we're being brainwashed by mainstream media, television, the internet, or whatever. We're being mind controlled. We're being like kept ignorant of that's going on. And that's the one way a cult operates too, when you don't really realize, hey, there is a prison that I can't see here. There is a cage for consciousness, or my perception is being limited.
There's a lot of arbitrage going on, and specifically a lot of incremental kind of transgressions against individual freedoms. Like it's
Yeah,
happening.
it is
It's
happening. We aren't free. There are so many ways that we're being manipulated and kept in this. It's like basically we're in a lot of ways enslaved by the education system, the monetary system, religions, government, the medical system. They keep us all in this little hamster wheel of life. We're trying to get through 9 to 5 with 2 weeks off a year, and like, who says it's got to be like that? That's not
yeah.
really It's not really working for many people. So many people are suffering now in like through physical challenges or financial challenges, mental health challenges. It's very, it could be very depressing, but that's what I write about in my books. And that's why what I've written about it are all the different medicines and tools and practices that I use to get me out of I mastered the art of suffering. And now I was so good at it. And now I don't suffer anymore. It's not to say I don't cry or feel pain or rage or whatever it is. I still feel emotions, but I'm not all the time in the experience of suffering or like, why me? Why is this shit happening to me? I'm out of that victim consciousness thing. So what I've written about all the different like medicines and body technologies and spiritual technologies that we have available to us that are free, that are effective, and that we have been kept ignorant of to keep us like sick and suffering and disempowered.
And people don't need to tithe to you to get access to those technologies.
Well, you can if you like. No, you don't need to tithe to me. We were laughing yesterday about with a friend about how if we wanted to, we probably could start our own cult. But you know how to do it now.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Like just I don't know, I have a weird sense of humor, so I've thought about that along the way. I was curious. This came up at one point. I was the thought came up when you were talking about Guru Don Perignon LaCroix, whatever the fuck his name is. What what kind of wardrobe is this guy rocking? I'm picturing like
Oh,
linen
stop.
pants and
No.
beads and
Oh. He wears gowns. Gowns.
ah,
So they're
nice.
basically like two squares of material joined together with a hole at the neck and places where he pokes his arms through that go down to the ground. And then they've got like that might he's into like earth colors, so you get sort of some satiny hunter green fabric with gold embroidery on it, and gowns are his favorite, or he else has sort of silk robes and pants and tops, sort of Indian guru style with all the
Yeah.
jingly, glittery stuff. He wears full on earrings, big chunky necklaces, heaps of rings and stuff like that.
That is so funny.
Oh my God. And he used to wear that when we went to school plays and stuff like that. And we were just begging, can you just wear some normal clothes? Even his normal clothes were like you were saying, white pants, white shirt. I mean, that
Yeah.
was his sort of standard guru garb with his
Uh,
beads around his neck. We would beg him, and he would say how disrespectful we were to even mention that he might be embarrassing.
I just
The poor kids.
I want to be a fly. Like if you could just for a day, like just get a transcript of what goes through his brain. God, I'd pay a lot of money for that. I want to know. But
Just saying, we go. This is really crude, but it just is all that goes through his brain is sex, money, and getting people to do things I don't want to do, like clean my house or clean my car or get their hands dirty in the yard.
yeah, how can I get someone else to do it for me?
Right.
Yeah.
How can I get? Yeah, that's pretty much what goes through his brain.
Well, if someone did want to join your cult or find your books or come and join, I don't know, if someone else, I guess you would probably know of other cult members who have left that cult, but I guess how could people find everything that you're doing and what else is that what you're doing today professionally is the books purely?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
I
pretty
don't
cool.
I don't have clients or groups or workshops or anything like that. It's just the latest book, The New Human of New Earth, has all all the hundreds of natural medicines, body technologies, like I said, spiritual technologies that can help us from staying connected to the earth, being grounded. I haven't worn shoes for about 8 years, except when it's glass on the ground or whatever. But I stay directly connected to the earth because the earth is a giant battery. So that's how I receive life force energy. And being connected to the earth is probably the only way we can actually balance ourselves electromagnetically, because we live in this chaos of EMFs and dirty electricity and all that sort of stuff. So when we are directly connected to the earth, it balances us or rebalances us. And so that's why I do that. It also reduces inflammation, and inflammation is one of the underlying causes of pretty much all chronic diseases. And it's not possible to be optimally physically or mentally healthy without a direct connection to the earth. So every day, feet to earth or lie on the earth, walk in the sand, walk on the wet grass. You can walk on bricks and concrete. Therefore, of course, that's conductive. So you're going to get earth energy that way. There are grounding shoes and grounding equipment or whatever. But if you're in a place, people say, "Oh, there's snow on the ground" or whatever. Go and touch trees because they're rooted in the earth, and you can ground your energy that way. There are crystals. There are touching grounded pets or another grounded person that can help you stay connected to the earth, because we are physical beings and spiritual beings, but we have to pay attention to our physicality in order to really get through this life without getting mentally or physically ill. So that's grounding is essential. This is something I thought about talking with you about, but something I do every day is sun gazing. So I receive the light of the sun, which is life optimizing information, right? That's what keeps us alive and makes plants grow. That's what light is. It's not just light. It's actually like information that can activate DNA and optimize our uh, consciousness, solve cognitive dissonance or whatever. So I was thinking about, without sight, your body, because of the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, and other light receptors that are in our body that could still be beneficial for people who couldn't see the sunlight. Like, you're still actually you know what I'm saying? You're still receiving the sunlight. You can actually receive sunlight through your skull too, because the skull's porous and fairly thin. So light does get in. The sunlight is shining down on into your brain.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's interesting, and it's had we not just talked for an hour and a half when you started talking about some of that stuff, because it's so far out of my wheelhouse, I've been like, oh, I'm checking out. But it's funny, the inflammation thing that you said is very true, and also which I think if other people are still listening, like you're open minded, like, but the grounding thing is real. Doctors talk about grounding and going and getting your feet, even if it's for a minute, just feet on grass. Go out in your backyard and stand in it's interesting. I've just heard of that, I don't know, in the last couple of years here, of that kind of stuff being a thing. But with the sunlight, it is funny. Just anecdote. The only other person that I've heard talk about sun gazing on here was an alleged a self-proclaimed prophet that I think was also basically like your guru. But I try and I go out and lay in the sun every day that I can, because
oh, that's good.
my optic nerves on my left side, no, my right side is totally severed. The left side is just dead. So there's no circadian rhythm wise. I'm kind of fucked a little bit. Like my sleep cycle gets very, very out of whack, because that's all regulated through your retinas. But I try and let my body still absorb some of that. And I know, because I shot myself literally right in between the eyes. So I was told I've had some damage. I don't remember the exact terminology that they said, but basically I think it was pituitary, actually, not pineal, but I know that the gland is basically like in here. I don't know to what extent all of that is damaged, but I, mm, I guess wary of opening my eyes to the sun, because my pupils are always dilated, and my eyes had ruptures in them after I shot myself, but they're still intact and they should still function if they can ever fix my nerves. So I'm like very, very protective of my eyeballs. But yeah, I don't have you like, will you literally like open your eyes and stare into the sun?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And it started off at dawn when the sun is obviously just rising, and that's when it's safest to look at the sun. I'm not advising this view, because I think that the fact that you go out and get sun, like I said, it's still going into your body. It's still receiving sunlight.
Yeah, your skin still processes that. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So that I just looked at the sun for several seconds, really, because it's so powerful. It's pretty intense, and it's not the no pain, no gain thing. If it's painful, just don't stop and just look at it. Look at the sun very like through almost closed eyes. So you're not like bug-eyed looking at the sun, but lashes closed, and just for a couple of seconds, and build from there. And then also it's possible to do that safely again at sunset. And yeah, I've just built up a capacity to be able to receive sunlight for longer than pretty much now I can look at the sun at any point in the sky. And the other important part about when we are receiving from nature, we receive the most when we're relaxed. So being like lying down, or I go float in the water and sun gaze, so I'm completely relaxed and receiving that way. But like you said, you can go lie in the grass, lie in this, and receive from nature. That'd be, if any message from today, it's spend as much time as possible every day away from electronic devices and in nature. Just being there, listening to the sounds of the wind, the birds. Our bodies actually, that's how we come back to center, is through the natural world. So and the thing is, if you're not in a place where you can get out into nature, play the sounds of nature through your computer or whatever. There are birds chirping, waves crashing, rain falling, whale sounds. I did that when I was living in the city. I played a lot of natural sounds. You can, what's it called? Diffuse essential oils. So you're smelling the pine forest or the lang lang or whatever it is, and you can create your place. Have more plants inside. I'm right next to a plant as I speak. So
Mary.
yeah. So just, bring nature indoors and get out outdoors and just go and relax and play, have fun. Take kids outside. They've forgotten how to play. So, you know,
And
take children outdoors, go camping.
go exercise. Yuck. Like get off your ass. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Be doing as much human stuff as possible, because now we've got two generations of people who are relating to life primarily through screens and through the natural human world, which is, I don't know, terrifying in some respects, right? So instead of like tuning into the world around us, there's now people are just focused on a screen, and that's very disempowering and very sickening. So it's important to make time to move away from that and go and do human stuff. Go and walk, whatever, run, cook, garden, grow food, dance, play music. Let's, just
Yeah.
do human stuff. Talk to other people, get make eye contact, or just, get in that physical contact if it's safe, whatever, but be human.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, at the simplest, stop living life through your camera. Like it's not, oh, I need to take a video of the concert that I'm at. Just experience the concert while you're there. Like
Right.
you can tell people about it. Like that. I think there's going to be some people of my generation and those that from maybe this younger generation. Hopefully they learn from the mistakes of my generation, kind of like getting sucked into this stuff. But like, so there's going to be people on their deathbeds that realize like I lived half of my life through watching other people's lives and not actually living my own.
Living my life, yeah.
So
Bizarre,
depressing to
isn't it?
think about. Yeah.
Right. It's happened so quickly. It's only just been a couple of generations and we're becoming less human,
Yeah. Yeah.
becoming like techno robots, techno humans. That's what I called it in my book, The Rise of the Techno Humans.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of cyborgs already, except our computers are external, but they're attached to us all day. My phone is in my pocket all day. Like it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Uh, where can people find these books?
So they're available through my website, which is feelingbetternaturally.love. And I also have a YouTube channel, Feeling Better Naturally, and a Substack, Feeling Better Naturally. And the books are on Amazon. And since last week, my book is also available in a bookstore on Kauai called Talk Story Bookstore. Finally, I got a book in a bookstore, so I'm so excited about that.
Because you're in Hawaii, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's cool that it's there in person. That's got to be cool to be able to walk in there and see it.
It's the
Wow.
most westerly bookstore in the US.
Okay. Little fun fact. Yeah.
Fun fact.
No,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Thank you so much for just this. There's a lot here for people to unpack. And I think it's important just to, it's one of those things where like, if people can stop and not judge and just listen and maybe recognize some of the trends there, the things that set these things up to happen, it can really increase a lot of understanding and maybe a little empathy, but more so the just the awareness and how, it's important to stop and think about how people end up in situations like this, whether it's, manipulation of this kind that you've been through or whatever else. I mean, these are all, like you said, a cult doesn't have to be a guru and his satin slippers and linen pants and telling you, he's the next coming or the second coming out or whatever. These are patterns that we fall into as humans. And so I think this was, I really, really enjoyed this. And so I appreciate you just being candid about it all.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so grateful that I got an opportunity to meet you. If I had a podcast, I would definitely have you on, because I have lots of questions for you, but I won't ask them now because we have been talking for a while. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity to share what I learned from my experiences, because in the end, it's just like blah, 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 all that happened. But here, this is what I've learned now. All these like medicines that we have available that we can use to keep ourselves out of cults, out of like sickness and suffering. And they a lot of this information has been intentionally hidden from us so that we aren't operating at our maximum capacity, that we aren't reaching our full potential. That's really what it's about. Most people don't really know who they are, what they're doing, why they're here. And so it's important to be asking those type of questions.
And that should be a continual process too.
Yes, exactly. Because it does change, who I'm not the same person that I was definitely earlier in life. And even just within the last 10 years, you're always changing, evolving, learning new things, realizing that what I knew before that was not true or not helpful or whatever. So yeah, it's a lifelong process.
Yeah. And hopefully that it's growing, not shrinking, But yeah, thank you again.
Well, thank you, Zach. Very grateful for all that you do, and thank you for living and then being in a place where you can inspire others and offer a platform where people can share information to help others. It's important work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just I got lucky because I'm a bad shot apparently. So, but thanks everyone.
That's such a bad joke, but good for you to be able to.
I always say that people say like, "Oh, that's inspiring," and I'm like, I'm a former machine gunner who couldn't hit a target at point blank range. So think about it that way, and it changes things a little bit. But thank you, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, and thanks everyone at home for listening to another episode of Going In Blind. Remember to share these things around because people need to hear it, and this is a pretty heavy one. So I will see you next time. Have a good rest of your day.